this is Sherry Elliott Pope, and welcome back to How to Art. This is my new logo that a friend did for me, and I hope you like it. I do. I thought we would work on a spring painting today. The weather's been awfully cold. I'm about tired of winter, and I thought you might be too. So we've got our canvas primed and ready to go with 2 coats of gesso and an underpainting of some leftover paint that I had. So I've prepared 3 shades of a blue-green mixture that I've prepared, the darker, mid-range, and lightest value. And so we're painting the sky. We've got a big sky, and we're going to quickly blend that down. I'm using acrylic paint, and we're going to blend it, but we're going to do it quickly, and we will add some cloud details in a little bit. So as you know, acrylic paint dries quickly, so you will need to add some water if your paint starts to drag or just not be very workable. And I have prepared water glycerin mixture where you take just a cup of water and add about 5 to 10 drops of glycerin to it, and it helps your paint stay wet longer and easier to work with. So you would just take a couple of drops of the water and glycerin mixture and add it to your palette and work it up in your paint that you're working on at the time. So we're making the mountains now, and we're using atmospheric perspective, and so that's where the colors of the objects that are in the distance are a very light shade. It's going to show that they're off in the distance. And with the atmospheric perspective, typically you're going to see your mountains in a pastel blue, purple, very pastel purple, and grays, and it helps it recede into the background. Also, you're not going to see much detail on those mountains in the background. So I've mixed some shades of red-violet here that are very muted. I've mixed them together and applying some dots, and you'll see as I mix them together here that they'll take on the appearance of vegetation. You're not going to be able to see detail of something off in the distance, but you'll see maybe an indication of shape or color. And so that's the effect we're going for here. And as you review these videos, you'll notice that I edit them so that if I'm doing the same activity on the painting, I will go ahead and just try to make that shorter, so that we're not monopolizing a lot of your time. We're taking a couple of hour painting and bringing it down to a more reasonable time length. So this one's about 35 minutes, and if you hang on to the end, I have a very cool technique to add some pop to your painting. I think you'll like it. So we've created the distant landmass, and now we're working on the area that's going to be between the distant landmass and the foreground. So we're going to blend that area of transition between the foreground or the background and that mid area. let's create a stream of water coming down out of the mountains. It's transitioning from winter to spring, so we're going to have some ice floating in that river. As we've talked about in previous videos, you're going to want the colors that are in the foreground to be the most saturated and vivid colors, and as you recede into the background, those colors are going to become duller, more muted, and that's the way that you create the distance in a picture, as if you are walking into the painting. So I am applying some blue-green here, but as you will see, I will come in and add some different shades a little later in there, as I decided that wasn't quite the color I was looking for. Let's make some big fluffy cumulus clouds. We're going to make some that are a more saturated white, more opaque white, and then we're going to have some of the clouds be more translucent, a lighter shade of that white, where we see the blue coming through, and that'll give the appearance of distant clouds. And the ones that are the brighter whites, the more opaque whites, are going to move forward in the painting. I've prepared a yellow white. The yellow is a warm color, and so anything that's warmer is going to move forward. So this is going to help with our big sky. It's going to help it not look flat. You know, it's going to look as if you're looking up into the sky and seeing the sky in the distance and the sky right over your head. So we're going to use that yellow-white very sparingly. And here's the effect I got after a little bit more blending. I'm drawing the tree trunks and branches now. We're going to be making pine trees, so we really won't be seeing those branches, but I still like to draw them so that I have an idea of the structure of the tree. So I was using a line brush to draw the trunks of the tree, and now I'm using a fan brush to draw those distant evergreens, and I'm using a light color because remember, we're using the principle of colors that are in the background are going to be a lighter color than colors in the foreground. And here we have an uh-oh moment. my diligent work turned into a red-orange blob. So I had to start over. Sometimes you just have to go over an area and repaint it if you're not pleased with the results. So that's what I did, and we're starting over. I lost some of the detail that I had on those mountains in the background by painting over them, but I think our trees are going to be large enough so that they'll cover up most of the mountain in the background. I've mixed together 3 shades of yellow-green. I'm going to start off with the darkest green here on these evergreens, and then I'll go to the mid color, and then lastly add the highlights. It works better when you work from dark to light so that your colors don't get muddied as much. And if you allow drying time for some of this kind of work, it'll help you as well. I've added another level of highlights here. So this would actually be the 4th color, and it's a very pastel yellow green. It's going to catch where the sun is hitting the branches of the evergreens. We're going to add some spring grasses to that area between the stream of water and the evergreens. And spring grasses are beautiful shades of yellow green. So that's what we're going to do. And also we want to include some darker and lighter shades of green and some highlights on top of those grasses. I'm using a bristle brush. I did that for the evergreens and also for the grasses. The bristle brushes are stiffer and they work really well when you're painting vegetation. Let's work on the foreground now. So our colors are going to be more saturated, more vivid, bringing them closer to us in the picture. I want to create the effect of moving water. The best way to do that is to have, these shades of white and blue, several shades closely together. And it's not an easy process, so let's see if we can do it. Let's paint a beautiful old tree. I prepared a muted gray-blue color, and I'm going to use that as I'm drawing the initial shape of my tree, as it's easier to clean up a gray shade than it is a black color. I'm happy with how that turned out, so I'm coming back in with a blue-black. I'm switching to a line brush now that I'll be using to draw the smaller branches on the tree. I've decided to add another trunk to this tree so it will have two trunks. Just make it look a little more interesting. So we're going to use the bristle brush to add some highlights to our tree trunk. The bristle brush kind of drags along the trunk so that it doesn't get paint on every spot. And that really helps create the appearance of bark. We're going to add the clumps of spring grass in the foreground now. We're going to work on the flowering buds coming out on the spring tree. And I've mixed together 3 shades of red violet, the darker, mid-range, and the highlights. And we're going to start off with the darkest of those 3 shades first. I'm using the bristle brush again, and I'm holding it at about a 90-degree angle because I want the actual tips of the bristle brush to be putting down the paint. And this gives the appearance of a budding tree. So we don't want a glob of paint. We want to get some of the color on our brush and dab it maybe on a piece of paper or paper towel first before using it on the canvas. I've darkened the color in between the trunks of the evergreens because I thought it looked better that way. Okay, now this is the area that I told you about that we would add some pop to our painting. And as you know, working with acrylics and oils are different. And I happen to have some oils on hand because I have used oils in the past. And I mixed together a beautiful crimson red and titanium white to together and came up with the beautiful pinks. And so now I'm going back over the blossoms of the tree with the beautiful pink colors that I mixed in oil. But before that, I painted over the entire canvas once it was dry with linseed oil. When you're working with oils, you want to have linseed oil down because it helps your painting, the flow of the paint better as you work. So this creamy oils that I'm putting on the blossoms are just going to make them more vibrant. And I think you'll be pleased with that result. And also, I use the same technique for the stream. I mixed together some white blues and white in oils and went over the stream. So if you don't have to do that for your paintings, but I did have those paints on hand, and I thought, you know, that's really going to give it a nice pop. So why not? I've used a tetrad of complementary colors from the color wheel. Those are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. So I've used a palette of blue-green, yellow-green, red-orange, and red-violet together to create colors that look good together. So even though these colors are muted violets and blues and greens to some extent, and especially that red orange, which is on the trunks of the trees, are very muted, but still it's enough there to really make this painting look cohesive. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.